Welcome to Death Valley Driver audio video review number 2. This week is Taka, Nakagawa, Great Sasuke, Dynamite Kid, What a Week, and other stuff I saw and heard this week. As usual, written by Dean Rasmussen, narrated by Phil Ripa. Howdy. I had a bittersweet week of tape viewing since a lot of it was from the 80s, and if ever there was a hit and miss decade, that was it. I watched a few zillion hours of pro wrestling this week from 1988 up to Bruiser Brody's death. This was Joe Pedicino's great syndicated show that was a sampler of basically all independent wrestling every week. The show was so chock full of love for the sport that one can overlook the usually subpar action that was offered up. The late 80s indie scene was great for angles, pretty bad for wrestling. My favorite being the dirty white boy and white girl angle from CWF in Alabama, where white girl, sporting a black eye, pleads with a faced Tom Pritchard to save her from more beatings from white boy. Pritchard is giving her a stern lecture about straightening out her life when, of course, the future PL Hopper commences to beating the crap out of him with a chair. He then proceeds to cut off his hair and string him up with a noose. All the while, White Girl is laughing and kicking the future body Donna. Now that was good old-fashioned hardcore redneck violence. The crappiest parts of the show are when they would show some horrendous WWF match. I sometimes down today's WWF, but compared to the shit they used to shovel out, I saw Hercules vs. Duggan match and Strikeforce twice. Today's WWF is an all Japan Carnival 365 days a year. It was definitely cool seeing a formative Paul Heyman learning how to be a heat machine in front of a batch of Alabamians. And I never want to see Playboy Buddy Rose's big fat hinder ever again. And I thought Flair's flabby ass on my TV screen was bad enough. The most touching show was the tribute to Bruiser Brody, about a week after he died, and the honest rage of Jerry Blackwell over the ordeal. It was very heartfelt and beautifully done. I'm also guessing that Paul Heyman is the only man to be kissed by Bruiser Brody on national TV. I saw a Dynamite Kid vs. George Takano as Cobra match from 1984, and geez, I sometimes forget how awesome the Dynamite Kid was in his prime. The added attraction was that he was totally bald, as was Davey Boy Smith in his match on the tape. Yikes! I think this match was better than most Tiger Mask Dynamite Kid matches I've seen. Much stiffer with great psychology on both sides, as opposed to Kid dictating the pace and trying to keep a handle on Sayama. And Dynamite Kid goes to one knee to block a pile driver like someone else does now. Benoit still has a couple of steps to go to reach Dynamite's level of arrogance, even if he has at least matched his intensity. Also on that tape were the 3 David Schultz matches, who I had not really seen other than when he slapped the hell out of that idiot reporter and got banned for life. God, these were pretty choice. Pretty technically sound for a redneck ass stomper, and his match tagging with Larry Koji against Inoki and Fujinami was downright brutal. I watched new NWA True Grit from 1988, and that I brought back a lot of good memories. I was in college, and I would go get drunk at parties when all music and talking stopped, as everyone would stop and marvel at the Flair interview on TV at 1 in the morning. NWA would come to the Richmond Coliseum every month, and we would get 10 people together and go. We would make a cretinlessly drunken road trip to Charlottesville to see the Great Muta at U-Hall. It was a golden time. The main thing that struck me about this pay-per-view was that every match was good from top to bottom, with the cream of the crop being the Fantastics versus Steve Williams, Kelvin Sullivan, and a truly great Barry Windham Bam Bam Bigelow match. It is easy to forget that for a short while in the late 80s, Barry Windham was the best wrestler in North America. And if you need any proof, see this match. Work rate, intensity, stiffness, psychology, he had it all for a short while. Flair also dragged Luger's loser ass to a great match. Bushytail also sent me a truly weird Sheik special on Big Time Wrestling from 1976. It had matches from the 60s and early 70s, with the Sheik executing some pretty nifty moves. After all the pogo I've seen, it's kind of weird to believe how horrified I was as a kid when he would use that flash paper to burn people's faces. It was neat to see the I like to hurt people Sheik, especially since it spared us the movie's spectacularly horrible soundtrack. The ads for Cobo Arena with girls, a 6-man midgets match, and over 40 stars are priceless. I watched the 5596 FMW show that St. Phil sent me, and it was about as hit as miss as any FMW tape, with the highlights being the Kudo Combat Toyota exploding barbed wire match, the Cactus Jack Swan Song, and the truly fantabulous Taka Mikinoko Koji Nakagawa match, which sported 3 Taka bombs and impressive wrestling all around. The Cactus match made me happy that he is mankind now and will be able to prolong his career for a few years, because I don't know how many more bumps he could take like these. I'm convinced that Kanemaru enjoys being body slammed into barbed wire and spider net. That can be the only explanation for anyone allowing this much pain and agony to be inflicted upon one's body. The Pogo match was irritating because Pogo once again carves up a wrestler who can work circles around most people in the sport when he takes the sickle to Tanaka. The Kudo Combat match reminded me of a Tenro Anita electric barbed wire cage match I saw once that was cool because there was so much actual wrestling in it that you forget it's exploding barbed wire match. So when they hit the wire, the explosion is that much more impressive. This is definitely the most brutal match I've ever seen involving 2 women, including Hada Kandori. Maybe the most overall involving 2 people who are actual card-carrying wrestlers. I have to disagree with Phil when he said that the electric barbed wire was more horrifying than the 2 backdrop divers at the end. I think I would definitely want to go headfirst into the barbed wire and then get that next to the last backdrop driver. That looked career-ending. Gaia just rules at every level. The Chigusa Shark Aguchi Miss Pogo match was also pushing the limits of what I can take in a women's match. Chigusa is so cool, and that is perfect face, and I hate to see her blade or juice hardway. It was still entranced by Gaia matches far more than the men's matches, except for the Taka Nakagawa and the fabulous Hyota match. Who is that masked man who beat the hell out of him? Between Hyota and Ue, I don't know who is the biggest pretty boy in FMW. I started watching a gargantuan Japanese tape and saw the fabulous Taka Great Sasuke match. If anyone ever thought that Sasuke couldn't have a great match without the Sasuke special, look no further than this match. All the bumps were within the non-life-threatening range, and it was as intense in the end as any other match I've seen these 2 in. This was a pretty crappy week for free TV wrestling, with the best being the Malenko-Regal match. I love the way Malenko can cover up for a subpar middle of a match by kicking it into overdrive at the end. See his match against Liger on Nitro. I didn't see SummerSlam, being the Bizarro World John Petrie. I must get every WCW pay-per-view, but never get WWF pay-per-views. But I'm looking forward to seeing the Mero Shooting Star Press. All in all, it was a great week to be a tape trader. Naniwa! Dean Rasmussen, Super Caholic.